Hello and welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. I am your backup host, Cesar Hernandez. Thank you. Before I get into the intros, thank you for all of you who have been patient with us. I know we were struggling a little bit. We're going to blame YouTube. We're not going to blame us, although we like to make a joke that we're on Mexican time. We struggle a little bit. We're trying to figure out, how to set this show. But thank you for all of you being patient. Today we got a special show because we're not only going to talk about the Mexican national team, we're also going to answer a few of your questions that many of you, and thank you so much for all of you who took part in this, who sent us your questions on Twitter. We'll be sure to answer a few of them tonight. But before we get into that, let's first say hi to Tom Marshall. Tom Marshall, Guadalajara. We know you like short introductions. Tom, how you doing?
Good.
Naim Moran, over in Mexico City. How you doing,
buenas noches, Cesar. Tom, thank you to the audience, for the patience. We said 9 p.m. It's 9:21 in Mexico, but we work it out like this sometimes. We say a time and it's 20 minutes later.
It's only 7:21 in California, so I don't know what you're talking about, Naim. All right.
Really?
All right, let's get right into it. You know what? Before we talk about the national team, before we talk about the roster, we're going to start with a question that's a little bit more relevant to that, but I'm going to get straight into it with a question from Gonzalo Figueroa. I had already similar words. He said, do you, let's see, or actually cancel it. Well, Gonzalo, we're going to save your question for later. We're going to Leo Garcia, 81, who said, out of all the new faces in the Mexican national team, who can make the most positive impact in the Rio 11? So we're assuming he means, the November roster, the starting 11 that you'll see in November's World Cup qualifying matches. Let's go over to Naive for this. Naive, of these new faces, who's going to make the most real impact in this squad?
I think when you which includes players that haven't even played in Liga MX this season, it's a really odd list. But when you see the names, I think the one that stands out in my opinion is Jonathan Dos Santos, because he's been a consistent starter in Villarreal. He understands the central midfield role. He understands the right midfield role. And I think he could provide a lot of support to players like Herrera and Guardado. However, against a team like the U.S., in Columbus, I think he might need another central midfielder, not just Jonathan by himself there. I think there could be some support there, which could potentially be Rafa Marquez, looking at what he's been doing over there at Atlas. But I think if there's one player that stands out to start in the 11, is Jonathan.
Tom, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the player I'd pick out as well. Apart from him, I'm going with the obvious ones here. Marco Fabian obviously is playing really, really well in Germany right now. We know he's been inconsistent, but Osorio picked him against Canada I believe in the away game up there in Vancouver. So I think Osorio does like Fabian. Fabian said as soon as he arrived at the airport that he's got a good relationship with Osorio. That before the Copa America that he spoke with Fabian. So it's a very different relationship that he's got with Fabian compared to Giovanni, who's got this just weird it's complicated, the relationship status over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think with Fabian, he's a player who potentially could be in there. And then I don't know. I'll throw a wild name out, but Rodolfo Cota from Chivas. Why do I say that? Jesus Corona from Cruz Azul, Moises Munoz are the other goalkeepers, but honestly, Cota has impressed me a lot. I wasn't even a big fan when he first came to Chivas and took over from Tonio Rodriguez. The quality that he's shown, the way he leads his defense is I've been really impressed by him. And with Ochoa not doing so well over there, he might just come into the equation in the nearest future.
I know it's easy to bring up. When we talk about new players, you can say, new. We can say someone like Aldrete. We can say someone like Jonah. We can say someone like Fabian. But is there someone who's really other than Cota, because we know Cota doesn't have a call-up just yet to the senior national team. Are there any of those new guys who this will be their debut, who we think, maybe not saying that they're going to be a starter in November, but they can sneak into a key role in those November games?
I'd go with the youngsters, me. I'd go with Obelin Pineda, Eric Gutierrez. They've consistently shown the class at Liga MX level, and it's like, at what point do you throw them in? I'm just reading Andres Iniesta's book at the minute, it's quite interesting, how he was gradually integrated into that Barcelona team. Obviously not a national team, but the competition was pretty stiff. And at some point you've just got to take this risk.
Yep.
I think we're losing Tom Marshall.
You got some risky Wi-Fi right now.
It'd be
we know that Tom's using his phone today. For whatever, he can't use his laptop, so I know he might be a little in and out with that Wi-Fi connection. But now you've been finishing off with Tom's thoughts, or just like I said, any of those younger
in general, I think it's difficult to sort of interpret what Osorio really wants to get out of these next two games, because he doesn't have the backbone available. I mean, the backbone is in Europe at the moment. Guardado sustained an injury, so he was not going to be able to play whatsoever in these matches. But I think here, when I see this call-up, when I see the names, there's a lot of emphasis on the attack, because a lot of the faces are changing. There's not a Tecatito, for example, that is constant. There's not a Chicharito Hernandez. There's not a Raúl Jiménez. Of course, Raúl is out with an injury. So this permits...
massively bold move.
Tom, were you talking that whole time? That must have been 3 minutes right there. Tom, can you hear us? No? All right, he's on mute. Sorry, now you go ahead.
Yeah. So, Tom, yep. And so like I was saying there with the explanation, I think the attack, he has a lot of options here to test out the attack, especially with...
All right, I'm back.
All right, Tom. With Giovanni, with Marco Fabian, with Irving Lozano. And I think what we have to look here is that Marco Fabian and Giovanni have good chemistry. Yeah. Is there a possibility to see Marco, to see Giovanni, to see Jonathan in the same 11? And that could permit for a different variable, I think, for Osorio, to have another option that is not your wingers and Chicharito in the center. Well, now you could have I call it the false nine option with Giovanni as your lone striker there, but we'll have to see what happens.
And before we get into, I know we have a few more questions from a few of the fans who asked us these on Twitter, but before we get into these, because some of them are a little bit more Liga MX based or a little bit more Liga MX focused, let's talk about Gio. Let's talk about Fabian. Let's talk about Jonah. Are these players that could potentially sneak into the November roster? Are these players we could give a start? We know Fabian, as you mentioned, Sodio might like him a little bit more than some of the other players, but are these players that are going to be key players next month?
I don't think am I back?
Yeah, you're back. Yeah, Tom, you're good. I feel like I can hear myself a little bit. I don't know. Wait, never mind. We're good. You're good. I don't have a YouTube chat open, but yeah.
I don't want to waste another 10 minutes of my life talking to myself.
Hey, I do it all the time. It's great. I do it all the time. It's awesome. Chat more often.
No, but I don't think that any of them are going to be vitally important. I think what we said before, if there is one, Jonathan Dos Santos, I think Giovanni Dos Santos has got a chance. And obviously Fabian. But I think is a massive game against the States on November the 11th, and he's going to want as many options off the bench as he can. And I think that's going to be the role of those players.
Yeah. Naib, your thoughts on either of those three players, of the Dos Santos brothers or Fabian, or if they could really, even if will they even be able to make an impact in these upcoming September games?
No,
October. Oh my God, we're October now, not September.
Yeah, the October games. No, definitely. I think these are the games for them to take over, to take command, to take advantage of this opportunity. I think we know what Giovanni can give to the national team. I think Marco Fabian's season in Germany has been stellar, for his record. I think, we didn't expect it to be so good at the start of the season. So it is an opportunity for them to show up and show some type of importance. Like I said, I think the 7-0 defeat against Chile does leave Mexico in a dilemma, because you really don't know what's next. What happened after that game? Was there a strife between the players and the coach? Is there really this union that they try to show to the press that, we support Osorio, blah, blah, blah? Is that really true? We don't know about it. And this was the opportunity to call the team and see what's up, because, Chicharito wasn't in the last friendlies, because we know about the injury, the hand injury, so really the mesh, where's the mesh? Where's the communication? What is the idea of the team? We got to check that out.
The only thing I could is that, Osorio, regardless of the pressure, we all know the pressure, Miguel Herrera coming out after that Cholos game or this weekend being like, oh, it's such a strange squad. He said, muy rara, la lista muy rara. And it's like, why is he opining about those kind of things? But anyway, he said that. We know the pressure's on. There was a good article by David Feitelson on ESPN saying that, the FMF are basically readying Miguel Herrera for a potential return if Osorio starts failing. He's like the guy who's possibly, going to be in charge, just like with Eriksson and Javier Aguirre.
Yeah.
That's what's happening behind the scenes. So that's fascinating as well. But it just seems like Osorio, and he's ignoring all that, and he's thinking, look, I've got my contract to the World Cup. What's the best way from now to the World Cup to do the best for this team? Well, I want to see the depth of the squad. I want to see who else I've got. I want to see what these players who haven't been around for a while, i.e. Fabian and Los Dos Santos, and I want to see what they can do for me. The Europeans played together 3-4 years. I mean, they know each other very well. I'll let them, have a break, a much needed rest after, a really busy summer and a hectic early part of the season. But, it's playing with fire. I mean, no doubt about it. He's playing with fire, but I think he's playing the long game, and he wants, to a large degree. I know there's a lot of criticism about, Edgardo Marin, players like that, players like, Osvaldo Alanis. But I mean, what other left-footed centre-backs are there in Mexico? I mean, it's not all his fault. I mean, you look at the Liga MX these days, and the amount of foreign players, for right or wrong, whether it's good for the league or not, it means that Mexico is short in certain positions. And, left centre-back, the centre-forward, there's no...
I think something to bring up just really quickly. I know we're going to go into Naib, who read that Faitelson article. Maybe tell us a little bit more about it. But I've seen some stuff online. They talk about Tijuana and Tigres. They're currently the top two teams in the country. And you look at that roster, and you look at those options, and you see that especially Tijuana, who maybe they'll use one Mexican player. Maybe one player. They have
to. Valenzuela, no?
Yeah.
Valenzuela.
Maybe they have to. But yeah, it is usually Topo Valenzuela. The other day was I think it was him, and I think Yasser Corona was there too. But it's just it makes you rethink, think twice about. I mean, especially the 10-8 rule makes you think twice about the options that El Tri has. But before we really get into it, Naib, tell us a little bit about that Faitelson article that you read. I mean, tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are right now. I mean, it seems like he was talking about the state of the Mexican game.
No. Well, it's pretty obvious about this sort of sense of everything being done in the last minute, and this notion, that only certain people understand how the Mexican player works. The Mexican player is not your tactical genius, I would say. I think only few Mexican footballers have that tactical sense of the game well built inside them, and I would say it's Guardado, Marquez, Moreno, Chicharito, and then after that, it's only those that are in Europe, and maybe Osorio has had difficulties sort of sending his message across, and then that's when the name of Piojo Herrera comes in. I mean, Piojo, with his message of bringing everyone together and so forth, enamoró the whole nation basically in 2014. Yeah. So of course, who doesn't want to go back to that honeymoon? The reality is, though, is that we're 3 years almost after that. And of course, the way that Piojo left the national team was pretty ridiculous and embarrassing.
Yeah, it was.
And the team did.
No? Tom?
I think, Tom was going to say something.
In the Gold Cup. I mean, as well in that Gold Cup 2015, they were lucky. I mean, it was luck.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I think, especially with some of those calls, as much as some of us, like Mexico fans, don't want to admit it, we did need a little bit of that luck. We did need some of those potential calls. I'm not saying all those calls were a little shitty, but like a couple of those. And I think that help.
Yeah, I mean, I think we are in a country and also a league that everything is so immediate. Everything changes from one coach to the other. Look at León. You know how they changed Fernando Tena and they put in Torrente, and wow, look Leon is a different team. So you see those changes, and it goes across to the national team. I mean, this is a league in a country where the respect for long projects is inexistent. Because what matters
are you saying that this all stems just from the fact that we have 2 seasons in 1 year?
I think that has to do a lot with it. I mean, when you talk, for example, to Bucetich, to Chepo de la Torre, they know that that's how the system works. I mean, that's how it is. I mean, you might not agree with it, but that's how it's gonna be all the time. You know, you're always gonna be that overpressured to do stuff. And right now, Osorio could have brilliant ideas, but in Mexico, it's really difficult to sort of, you know, have a base and the support system, not just from Guillermo Cantú and all of these people. You know, you have to have the support from other coaches. And what I have seen is that I don't see the support going. Remember when Piojo would go to all the clubs and visit them before the World Cup? I don't see Osorio visiting, you know, I don't know, Pumas, or, you know, have that close relationship.
Yeah.
You know,
no,
America is just...
I mean, go back to when Osorio was hired, and you look at the quotes from Tomas Boy, from Vucetich. You know, they weren't happy. You know, they really weren't happy that a Colombian had come in. Even Hugo Sanchez, he said, you know, Osorio's good, but he's good for the Colombian national team, not the Mexican national team. So even right at the start, it's almost like Ericsson all over again. And you know, I'm going to make a bold prediction. I don't usually do this.
Let's hear it. I'm excited.
But I think at some point in the next 12 months, it's not that bold, is it? 12 months. But I think Osorio is going to resign.
Oh, 12 months. Huh? I'm saying he's to be fired by March.
No, but I don't think he's going to be fired. I think he's going to resign.
Yeah.
I think Osorio, I don't know, I've got no behind-the-scenes information, but just from how he presents himself and as he is as a football person, I just cannot see him lasting it out. I mean, everything's going against him now. He's like, nobody listens to him. No one even wants to even listen to him these days. And I think that he's going to, at the end of the day, think, forget it. I can't work in these conditions with these people.
All right, before I get into the next question from everyone else, we've got a few more questions that it's not just that one about the national team, but I'm going to ask you guys a question, maybe just to wrap this up. But do we think that honestly, do we think Osorio's going to last until the end? Not saying he's going to make it to the World Cup, but do we think he's going to make it to the end of World Cup qualifying? Do we think he's going to make it to the end of the Hex?
No.
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 I mean, and this is following just the trend from the last years. I mean, if you there's a statistical evidence that the coach lasts less than a year, basically, and it's sad. It's sad, but you know how everything is playing out. You know, unless he has a remarkable November, you know, which is 6 out of 6, I think, because Mexico does have the players to do that. You know, if it's a 6 out of 6 in November, and he's able to settle his idea with certain players, I don't know who that could be, but you know, don't be surprised if Osorio all of a sudden surprises and be like, all right, I'll put Guti as a starter, I'll put Orbelin as a starter, because those players are hungry. You know, they know that if they play well with El Tri, they're definitely going to Europe. You know, and if the players from Europe want to have their moños, how we say in Spanish, be like, oh, you know, I'm this important player. Well, okay, let's put Guti and Orbelin and see what they do. And if they do well and help Osorio get the wins, then that could potentially help Osorio in the long run. But we'll have to see. That's utopian thinking right there.
I guess the problem is a lot of people are asking is what that idea for Osorio is. I mean, I think we're still trying to figure out what that is. But Tom, any thoughts really quickly about Osorio? Well, the whole last.
No, I mean, I think I get his idea. I just think it's something that most people don't try and understand, because it goes against like certain tenets of how we grow up watching the game. You know what I mean? Like, nobody understands why you won't just put kind of like Salcedo, for example. I'm not saying previously, but say Salcedo or you know, Diego Reyes, for example, as a left centre back. If Moreno's injured, why not put one of those guys in the left centre back? Why not play? You know, what else? Like, why is he? Wait up, let me think here. You know what the rotation thing, you know what I mean? Why is he changing the goalkeepers? It goes against what everybody's like, kind of what we're taught to believe about football.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously most people don't want to kind of kind of think outside the box, but it doesn't actually matter much what we think or what pundits think and all that. It matters what the players think, and the players have to buy into it. And it's very difficult on a national team level for players to buy into those kind of ideas. I think it's easier at a club level because you see them every day, which is another reason I think for these October call-ups, I think he would have been better just saying, let's just go to Europe. We won't even bother playing a game. We'll play a bloody reserve team. Well, let's just train. Let's go and train for 10 days. Let's absolutely get together, have a good time. We'll have a night or two out. We'll work double sessions on the training pitch. And instead of playing New Zealand in Nashville and then Panama side in Chicago, then let's actually train. Let's get to know each other outside of this bubble that we're in when we go to the States. But I don't know. That's an idealist as well. Me and Naive are just we're two idealists these days.
Yeah, and it's difficult. It's difficult to say. I mean, what really the situation is tomorrow. Of course, Juan Carlos Osorio will speak to the press. That's what it's suggested, and he's probably going to get asked that question about why didn't you call your cream of the crop for these matches, just to at least understand what you want out of the team. I know we want the 4-3-3 formation or the 4-4-2 formation, but I think after the 7-0, it was so impactful that you need time to sort of, where are we going? I mean, I think that was the moment where one of the most tragic events in Mexican football history. And I still don't see the reaction, because the games against Honduras and El Salvador, it was pretty brief. It was sort of like, the 0-0 over here in Mexico. And then in El Salvador, it was just all of a sudden a surprise win. But of course, it's in El Salvador and everything, but it's still not there. Maybe because the prospect of playing the U.S. in Columbus is really challenging. I mean, El Tri has never won there. So of course that sets the notion or the idea that it's going to be difficult, and right now I really don't know what El Tri I'm going to expect in November. I mean, is it going to be the one we saw against Chile, or is it going to be the one we saw against Argentina a couple of years ago when they played in Dallas,
Yeah. I don't know. Well, I mean, I think statistically, if they get 1 point out of those two games, it's not a disaster.
No.
I know that sounds absolutely mad, and it's not exciting for fans. But
even if there are just 2 points gained, there's still going to be a significant amount of criticism. I feel.
There will. Yeah.
Yeah. I think regardless.
I mean, and that's the bubble that Mexican football lives in. I mean, I feel like there's a lack of humility, especially from the media, that there's still a long way to go to become a top team. That's not saying the talent isn't there. I completely believe it is. And I think, you look at Mateus Almeida at Chivas and the way he's believing in the young Mexican player, and you think, that's the way to do it. But I just feel at national team level, there's no kind of we need to take, maybe a step back to move 2 steps forward. There's just no way that people would accept that.
Next, I think the only way that's going to happen, Tom, is if we miss out on a World Cup. I think that's the only time it's going to happen. So we're gonna stumble into the World Cup, and then we're just going to restart the process all over again. We're going to play 15 friendlies in the United States against New Zealand and Panama, and it's just going to be until it's going to hurt. Hopefully, maybe if this would have happened when I was before I started writing professionally, that would have been nice, When
I mean, and let's put it this way. I mean, at the youth level, we have seen successes, and we have
most definitely
some sort. On the U17 level, I still believe the big crunch or the big thing to break is winning a U20 World Cup, because it will be significant. But yeah, like you said, I mean, the selection, who's in charge of the national teams, who's making the decisions? Because look, Osorio was great at the club level in the sense that, he made Atlético Nacional win championships and blah, blah, blah. And he also did a semi-good job over there in Sao Paulo. But it's not the same. A national team you can't be rotating crazy style in numerous occasions, because you have very limited time to work your idea with a set of players.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, before we get into we talk about that, because we could do this. Eventually, it's going to turn into some discussion about how the FMF should be situation, getting some of those veteran players. We could talk about this for such a long time, but we got to get to some of the questions that the fans asked us. So really quickly, just to change gears a little bit, it's still relating to the national team, but I'm going to ask you guys. You guys give me a quick answer on this one. When will Rafa Marquez play his last game for the national team? Tom?
Oof, it's a difficult one. 2018.
2033. You say wait, 2018. So is that during
That's the World Cup.
You're saying Tom, you're saying he's going to go to the World Cup?
If he goes to 5 World Cups, Rafa Marquez, he captains the team. He's the first player. He's already the first player ever to captain a team at 4 World Cups. I think he's going to do it in another.
I don't know if you're joking or I don't know if you're being serious.
I'm not joking. He's playing quite well. I know it's a stretch, but I mean, every manager comes in and it's just like I don't know.
I think Marquez already took a bold step, which was to give the captain's armband to Andres Guardado. Yeah. I think that's already a sign suggesting that the end is near. You know, I think I don't see him in the next World Cup. I will put my hands on the fire and say Rafa Marquez will not play in the 2018 World Cup. But I think the end could come in the Confederations.
That's what I'm thinking.
Then, of course, it all depends on the scenario of the national team. If it's somewhat stable, because it's never stable. But if it's somewhat stable, then it could produce a memorable retirement. You know, a decent one, not a chaotic one. Well, basically, it's because the national team is always chaos. And it's hard to nail down that moment. Maybe like Tom says, I mean, just go to the World Cup, end it over there, and that's an end to the story.
I refuse to believe that, guys. I just refuse to believe that Rafa Marquez will even be in the roster at that point. I just think him, and I've talked about this before, I just think he should recognize that Mexico needs to move past him. You know, we need to remove that Band-Aid, that Rafa Marquez. It's gonna hurt, but we gotta get him out of there. We just gotta prepare that. I mean, we're not going to have another player like him for a long, long time. Maybe we might not ever have another player like him for ever. But I just think we need to move past him, and I think he needs to make a personal decision and recognize it, and needs to have his final game in 2017. That's all I'm saying. I
think a good point. That I think that the important thing there, said is from what you said is that he needs to make the decision because he's got such a status amongst the other players and in Mexican football in general that it's very difficult for Osorio to be like, nah, I'm not having Rafa anymore, because you know what I mean. If he stops calling him up, then it's like, I don't know, what will it do for the rest of the players? We've already seen what happened against Chile when he was left on the bench. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, so now I'm going to ask you guys another question. This is a little bit more focused on Liga MX. We've got Tom Harrison, our good friend Tom Harrison. You've probably seen him all over Twitter. I think it's Tom H_36, member of FootMex Nation as well. He asked, he said, it'd be interesting to hear how you guys would compare Liga MX to other leagues, quality, style, entertainment, etc. Both of you, I know, have followed several other leagues as well. Let's go to Naib. Naib, I know you watch a lot of European leagues. Compare Liga MX. I know it's a tough question, but compare Liga MX to other leagues.
Well, I think the level of intensity, that Liga MX sometimes has could be measured at the same level as a European league. However, I think when you see like La Liga or you see Bundesliga or you see the Premier League, the speed is way quicker. I mean, it's just with 1-2 touches, the opponent the team is always over there in the final third. And in Mexico, sometimes there's more pause. There's more pause in the sense of moving the ball around. You still see, how would say, what I like about the Liga MX is the equilibrium, I think, among all the teams, that there seems to be, the competition is never that different. For example, if like a Barcelona plays Alaves in Camp Nou. Well, actually, Alaves beat Barcelona in Camp Nou this season. But when you see like, I don't know, Atlético Leganés or Barcelona Leganés, that are teams, that are newly promoted, and a team that is way up there, the differences are there. But for example, in Liga MX, you got Necaxa. Necaxa can play against any opponent in Liga MX, and it looks pretty even. I mean, I think Necaxa has 7 draws in the season, so it does tell you a little bit that there is some equilibrium among the teams. But I still see differences in the intensity and the speed when you compare it to the European leagues.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Tom, your thoughts?
I think it's a league that's changing, and I think it's changing quickly. And there's an obvious reason for that, and that's the influx of foreigners.
over the last few years. I mean, let's not forget it was only a few years ago that there was maximum 5, and the naturalized Mexican players rule wasn't in place. You had to have played what was it like 5 complete years to be considered an actual Mexican. So there's very few players. So you actually had a majority of Mexican players in every single team, and that's changed now. You know, you've got the top teams who like Tigres and Tijuana that are playing a very different kind of football than I think a few years ago. So that's I think the first thing to point out. I think pretty much all the teams like to play out from the back. You see very little kind of direct football. You know, I think Pumas have started to introduce that a little bit this season. Leon as well, I think, have been getting the football. But it's not long ball. I mean,
it's not long ball. It's not Stoke City. It's not Stoke City, man.
Yeah, that's definitely not it. Yeah.
I think tactically there's work to do. I mean, if you watch a lot of La Liga teams, especially, the organization is brilliant. I mean, I know, obviously Diego Simeone's Atletico Madrid, with the 2 banks of 4 is the example. But if you watch Villarreal, for example, they're absolutely the tactical discipline is superb. And it's stuff like I mean, it's stuff like Irving Lozano. Let's take an example. I feel like everybody knows he's good. Everybody knows he's quick, but I feel like they still give him way too much space. Whereas if you remember, Argentina against Chile in the Copa America Centenario final, look what Chile did to Messi, and they did it in 2015. They didn't let him turn once. You know what I mean? Because when's Messi dangerous? When he's facing the goal and running towards you, because you never know what he's going to do. They never let him turn his back. Okay, if he receives the ball with back to goal, then they hit him. You know what I mean? And there's 2 players on him all the time. And I feel like the Mexican game, I don't know, it's stuff like that. Like, Lozano has a lot of space.
Also, not to bring it up, I know we hate bringing it up, but I think that's kind of what Chile did against us in the 7-0 loss too. I think that they did an excellent job of shutting us down in those situations. But Naive, you were saying?
Yeah, in the league, you sometimes, for example, one game that stands out was the Cholos Pachuca, and what I noticed was that I think that was one of the worst games for Guido Rodriguez. Guido Rodriguez has been one of the best players that have come to the league this season. And against Pachuca, he had a lot of trouble because I think the midfield and the defenders worked pretty well on him in that match, that ended in a draw. And of course, Pachuca, Cholos tied in the last minute, basically, over there in Hidalgo. And that was a game that I didn't see Rodriguez be so dominant, because for the most part, in the league games, Rodriguez has been dominant, from start to finish. But in that Pachuca game, I did see some tactical, pressure specifically on Rodriguez. Let's shut down Rodriguez so Cholos football doesn't look so fluid, especially with Avilés and Dairo cutting through up top.
I think really quick, just to bring up, I've been following him in Tijuana for so long. Just really quickly, just a shout out to him, just because Rodriguez has been fantastic and awesome. I think he's one of the more underrated players that I've seen. Maybe I'm not listening to other people enough, but I feel like that's just one new kid who's really impressive, 22-year-old Argentine who just shows up, gets. I feel like Juan Carlos Medina was supposed to be in his role, shows up, and now he's helping the team push up to first place. All right.
Quick thing. Yeah. I think the other thing we're seeing, I think, is becoming much more physical. I think we're seeing teams now. You look at Tigres when they walk past the mix zone, and they're a big team. I mean, Pizarro in the middle there, Gignac up front, and Juninho and Ayala at the back. Nahuel. Man, it's like you walk past you and you're like physically pretty imposing. A team like Veracruz as well. I think we're seeing much more of that. Even we saw Pachuca the other day.
Veracruz must be the tallest team in the league, right? I think they must be the tallest team in the league. I don't know why I keep thinking about that, but anyway, continue.
They're a big team, but yeah, I mean, I think it's something to. Well, it goes back to what I said at the start. I think the league's changing, and it's changing. It's what the owners and what the league people wanted. I mean, that's why they introduced this foreigner league, and I think it's becoming a better league. And I think we're going to see that increasingly, and especially if we get more the coaches. I think what we've not seen in recent years is a big name coach. I mean, I was disappointed that Martino went to Atlanta FC because I thought he would have been absolutely great at a top Mexican team.
That's an interesting thing to talk about as well. But before maybe we could get into that, I'm gonna ask one more. I feel like we can get lost in our own conversations, but we got to give attention to the fans. We asked them to to send over the questions. And then can you imagine if we only answered like a total of 2? I would feel bad. We got to go to a big friend of the show as well, at the Stray Goat. I think we've all seen him in his pictures of goats after Chivas matches. And he said, of the current playoff teams, which one is most likely to flame out, and which one will sneak in? So we got right now. Let me give you a quick rundown of the top 8 right now. We got Tijuana in first, Tigres in second, Pachuca in third, Pumas in fourth, Chivas in fifth, America in sixth, Toluca in seventh, and Necaxa in 8th place. Believe it or not, Necaxa is in 8th place. So which team is most likely to flame out, and then which one will sneak in? I mean, really quickly, just to give those that are right below who could sneak it, we got Puebla, Cruz Azul, Morelia, León, and Monterrey.
You go, Cesar. You do this one. You go first.
Oh, sure, yeah, okay. So let's see. Who? Okay, let me take a look at this list. I'm still. I don't know if I'm still that. I don't know if I'm so convinced by Pumas just yet. I know they've done all right in the last few games. I think they've got like 3. I think they have 3 wins in the last 6 games. You know, they're a decent team. I think. I don't know. It's tough for me to say like why I don't have a lot of faith in that squad just yet. Whether it be, I think they're just doing very well at home. I don't know, but I haven't seen enough to make me think that they're a playoff team just yet. I think for those teams that could potentially sneak in, let's see. I mean, easy to say. We could say León. I think León's they've been in good form recently. I think the new manager has done a decent job. But I mean, it's Liga MX. It's difficult to say. I mean, a team could be hot for 4 weeks and then they could just be terrible the next. But I think León, even though they're at 12th right now, and they only have 4 wins right now, I think they have the potential to potentially sneak in into the top 8.
Yeah, I'm going León and Cruz Azul to get in. Toluca and Necaxa are out.
Toluca. That one. Toluca's, I think they're also undefeated at home. Toluca is one of the undefeated teams. Cholos, Pumas. You know, when I look, I got a feeling Pumas. I would have to agree, flame out. You know, with Cesar there. And Necaxa relies heavily on Edson Puch. You know, if Edson Puch doesn't play for Necaxa, I see them out. Basically, that's how good Puch has been for Necaxa. And sneak in, I would say León. León mainly because, I mean, they're undefeated with Torrente. And look at the cases. Look at Santos and look at León. They sort of switch the coach at the same time. But León has the experience and Santos is inexperienced totally. I mean, they've debuted a lot of players this season. And the supposed leaders, you know, Marchesín, Izquierdos, haven't been able to transmit, you know, the reliability that a team needs in Liga MX. And you see that in León with Boselli, with Chapito, with Elias Hernandez, how important they have been, you know. Even Yarbrough has been pretty good. I mean,
hey, Yarbrough just got that call recently. He got that call. He got the call for U.S. Men's National Team. So, yeah. All right. So next question for you guys is still a little bit focused on Liga MX. We got one from Gonzalo Figueroa. He said, "Do you see Liga MX clubs supporting / investing more into their youth teams?" I think we could kind of bring this up too, because I mean, right now there's still a lot of talk about the 10-8 rule, perhaps what influence it might have in this decision. So do we think that Liga MX clubs will? I mean, I assume they are going to continue supporting, but maybe which teams are going to perhaps push more? Or is it important for this team to do so? Maybe they'll perhaps ignore it, but I don't know. I'm rambling here. What do you guys think?
It's a good question. It's a difficult one. I mean, I think the context of this is that with the 10-8 rule, we're seeing a big change in the way wages are working within Mexico, and that's why we've seen, especially in the last off season, so many foreign players come in because they're cheaper than Mexican players that have been in the league. Especially the older ones that probably aren't worth the wages that they get anymore. I mean, that's the bottom line. So therefore, you know, is it worth taking a punt on the youth systems? And I think the answer is yes. I think the difficulty though is that not every team in Mexico is that serious. I mean, there's not all the teams are serious organizations. So, you know, I think that the teams that are, you know, you look at like Tijuana, Tigres, Pachuca, I think Pumas are going to try and do that now. Chivas, big time. I mean, Chivas they have to do it, and I think they are going to do it. America, I think, will have a go.
Somewhat.
Toluca have hired Güero Real to in there, but and then I think Atlas are going to try and do it. Monterrey, León, obviously with Pachuca, and Santos Laguna and Querétaro. But the likes of Chiapas, Veracruz, Puebla. I mean, they're just living on a day-by-day basis.
And it's unfortunate. I mean, I know I brought this up earlier, but when you look at the current league system, where the year's split up into 2 different tournaments, it's difficult to give an opportunity to those youngsters to begin with. It's difficult to try to incorporate them. You either give them a chance in the Copa MX, and if your team is out of the Copa MX, then what do? So I can see why it'd be more of an incentive for them not to focus so much more on their youth system and actually focus more on perhaps spending that money on big name players.
Yeah, I mean, I think the case right now that is really that could transcend not just this season, but I think the Cholos case is one to really pay attention at, because if Cholos goes all the way to the final and wins it, last season they were using a lot of canteranos. I remember Ama Moreno was starting, Paul Arriola was starting. Because there was no foreigners. There was no Guido Rodriguez. There was no.
There's no Aviles. There was no
Aviles. Caraglio wasn't there. Yeah. So here, this is how where I mean, Piojo's not. He's not doing anything wrong. He's following the rules. I mean, this is what you can do. And Cholos really is in desperate need of a title, because at one point we were like, okay, where's this Cholos project going? Is it going somewhere? Because it had been rather quiet the past years. So you see that there. I mean, it's working out. In Querétaro, for example, there's good youth system. They got a great coach in Bucetich, but everything just started off well, and now it all fell apart. Where do you go there? Like how the consolidation of the project? Do you keep Bucetich? Does Bucetich feel happy in Querétaro? And of course, when a new coach comes in, each coach has different ideas, So. For example, right now in Santos with Chepo de la Torre, how many people he's debuted, but the results are not there, though. That's the thing. I mean, if the results are not there, then you're gonna lose the job pretty quickly.
I think the example is Pachuca, and I mean, the thing with youth teams though as well, you need to have a good setup in place. Obviously, it goes without saying, but you have to do the scouting, the groundwork. But you also need to have a bit of luck. I mean, if you look at, like the Barcelona team with, the players that came through La Masia at the same time, Busquets, Pedro, Messi, it's like, that's ridiculous, you know what I mean? I mean, I know they've got a good setup, but to get a generation all coming through together is unbelievable. And I think Pachuca, what they've done well is that they've changed the managers, but the philosophy has stayed the same. And I just think it's a different way of running the club. The manager or the head coach is just that. He's a coach. He's a trainer. He picks the team. He picks the players. He trains them. He sorts them out for the game on Saturday. He has a say in transfers, but he's not running the club. There's people above him who are doing that and who are seeing 5 years down the line.
Yeah, because everyone thinks like, oh, okay, Guti starts, Rodolfo starts, Chucky starts, but then you see all these foreigners like Urreta Vizcaya, Franco Jara, Murillo, Gonzalez. But think about it. We're talking about 3 players that were brought up since they were little kids in Pachuca, and they're not coming from Hidalgo. I mean, Chucky's coming from DF, Guti's coming from Sinaloa, Pizarro's coming from Tamaulipas. That's not easy to come from that far away to Pachuca, Hidalgo, and stay there and prepare yourself and grow as a footballer and be a starter, a consistent starter. It's not easy. And then on top of that, you bring players like Victor Guzman from Chivas, where he didn't get the opportunities. Let's put it that way. That's why he's in Pachuca. Dedos Lopez, Eric Aguirre was an expensive buy for a young Mexican footballer from Morelia, but it goes with the philosophy. That's what Pachuca wants to do. It already got him a title last season, and it could potentially get him another title this season.
Which is difficult. I admire what Pachuca's doing. I think that's ideal, and I think that's really interesting. But I still don't see them as even a top 2 title contender. I mean, I'm still saying someone. I mean, right now I'm saying something like Tigres or Tijuana. Tigres more so. I think Tigres are obviously with the talent that they have there. I think that they're still the number 1 option. But as much as I would like for Pachuca to gain another title, I I don't know if they'd be able to get a second consecutive title. But then again, this is Liga MX, and you never really know.
I mean, the season of the 10-8 rule. This is the season of the 10-8 rule because it got integrated into the books. And imagine if Chivas or Pachuca win the title, or either one of those two teams.
Yeah.
Imagine a Pachuca Chivas final in the season that the 10-8 rule got debuted. And I think that's the perfect. We heard Americanistas, of course, because America is its centennial celebration. But imagine a Chivas Pachuca final in the year that the 10-8 rule was integrated into the league.
Well, it'd be perfect for all of us to try to find some interesting articles to write about that final. So that'd be a lot of content right there, a lot of narratives to talk about. All right, so final question I'm going to ask you guys. So this is from @Abraham. Abraham, you should shorten your username. It's let's see. Let me look at this. It's Abraham. Oh, I just lost it for a second. Where'd it go? Tom sent it to me earlier today. Let's see. Actually, oh, there we go. @Abraham. Let's see. I'm gonna read it out just for the fun of it. So Abraham 634166798. If the championship should the championship team be able to choose between Libertadores or the Champions Cup, and you assume he means by the Champions Cup means the CONCACAF Champions League Cup. Should they be able to choose? My quick little thing is that I think the Libertadores right now, if you're a Mexican club, obviously that's a little bit higher. That's something you haven't been able
scary.
to reach before.
The situation right there, in my opinion, it's scary. I haven't delved into the new changes that CONMEBOL will do to the Libertadores, but
that's a good thing to bring up as well.
With the CONCA champions. And remember how, the MLS teams were also saying, let's try to make this CONCA champions where it sort of doesn't get us on the off season. So it's difficult. I think we're in the CONCACAF. That's our blessing and our curse in disguise, I would say. Because if it wasn't for CONCACAF, El Tri wouldn't be in World Cups as much as they are.
That's entirely true.
But it's also a curse because the development is so short-handed. It's really I think that's what Libertadores is so important, is you have that potential to participate in a tournament of that caliber. You saw it with Chivas. I remember when Chivas would go to the final and you would see Marco Fabian, you would see Omar Bravo, even Héctor Reynoso. That was huge competition. That really built those players. And I think that would be a miss if, for example, they're not allowed to play Copa Libertadores anymore for the Liga MX clubs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know. It doesn't seem to make much sense. You know what I mean? The only way I can make sense of it, is that eventually it is going to include MLS clubs, and eventually it is going to be a cup for the Americas, for all the Americas, and you play less games, or you space it out, and you make it a true continental competition for Las Americas. I mean, I think that's what it should be. I think the Copa America in the States in 2016.
Good point.
It's difficult to get excited now about next year's Gold Cup. Put it that way. Once we've seen a proper Copa America, we've seen the CONCACAF and CONMEBOL teams, really go at it. I'm not saying it should be in the States all the time, but I'd just love for them to explore a way of merging the confederations. I mean, it's a radical thought,
but that's what the fans want, and that'll bring so much more money. They'll bring in more attention. I think that makes sense. I think that makes sense on a lot of levels, whether people like it or not. I mean, that could be argued, but it's just fans will be interested. Fans will be tuning in and watching those games.
Yeah. I mean, go on, Tom.
Just a quick point. I think the downside is, what would you do with the smaller nations who at the minute are, getting really important games like Panama this time, beating Monterrey, like the teams from Panama beating the Monterrey teams and Tigres. Like what happens to them? What role? How would they be involved? And the same for the Copa America.
Yeah. I mean, I think we should take an example. Look at this Copa Libertadores final. Independiente del Valle from Ecuador against Atlético Nacional from Colombia. Where's the River Plates? Where's the Boca Juniors? Where's the Sao Paulos? Where's the Corinthians? They were not in the final. What does that say? That there is this progressiveness or progression in the small teams. Ecuador's team was mainly all Ecuadorian players, and they went all the way to the final. And Atlético Nacional had a good base of Colombian players. So, of course, I think in the long run, if we merge these two confederations together, the advancements will be evident, I would say.
I mean, it's just difficult. I mean, the CONCACAF Champions League now, it's like the group stage, and I know they're trying to make it more exciting, but it's like it's still not exciting, is it? Really?
No,
I mean,
I honestly some of those group stage matches, it's on the same level as if I find out that there's a Copa MX match. You know, I
yeah.
I don't really care. I mean, to be honest, I just
it's a strange flair. It's a strange scene to see it live. For example, I went to see the Pachuca Police United, a team from Belize. They lost the game in Pachuca. I don't remember exact the score. I think it was 2-0, 3-0. And I remember seeing because over there in Pachuca they separate the vestidores, the dressing rooms. On one side is Pachuca's, on the other side is the visiting team. Well, the Belize teams, they were jamming, they were all happy, they were partying and stuff, and they had lost. And I really didn't understand the scene where I was. I was like, you just lost the game. Why are you celebrating? But no, the Police United players were happy that they were in Mexico, that they were playing against one of the most, one rich team. The 30% of the team is owned by Carlos Slim. So that's the making the trip is enough. It's they don't really care about. Sometimes I perceive that they don't care about the next step, but that's how the CONCACAF region is built. I mean, we are technically aware that it's always sort of going to be a MLS versus Liga MX, and sometimes a Costa Rican club could come in, or mainly Costa Rica, because I don't remember a Salvadorian or Guatemalan team or that has been able to go in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What can you say? I don't know. I don't see, like you see certain competitions or clubs and you can see it developing, you can see the vision and, oh yeah, that's where it's going to get to and it's going to be great. We just got to be patient. I can't see it with the CONCACAF Champions League.
Pachuca just got like a win, no? Pachuca got like 11-0 win or something.
It's difficult because of the competition. Like, where could you really take it? What could you really do? Unless you have a preliminary competition before the group stages just go immediately into a knockout round. I don't know, but then that's still in its sense just a group stage as well. It's difficult to kind of see how you can really. Yeah.
I mean, you have to be fair as well. I mean, they've got a responsibility to the nations that aren't as rich and can't put big squads together, and that they get some proper competition against the Mexican clubs, and they go to, like Naib said there, they go to Pachuca, they go to Monterrey, and they get that experience. But it's just like, from a fan's point of view, and it's just a really difficult one. And I think a way around that is to put everything together into a continental competition, and maybe even have qualifying stages and stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. So to wrap up the show, guys, we have about 7 to 10 minutes left. Let's go back to the national team. Let's look at these two upcoming matches.
7 to 10. That's pretty specific.
I'm marking this down, Tom. I marked down every single minute that we've been recording. So right now, Tom, we just wasted about 27 seconds
sorry.
right there.
I apologize.
Now it's 30. I don't know what we're doing. Let's talk about the national team really quick. Let's wrap it up. Let's talk about our predictions, whether it be scores, whether we think who's going to start, whether we think certain players are going to step up, whether it be New Zealand, whether it be Panama. Let's look at these upcoming two matches. Give us some sort of prediction. Naib, some sort of prediction. Score, who's going to stand up, who's going to struggle, just something, anything involving
I think, look, I'm going to try to be optimistic tonight. The last time New Zealand was involved with Mexico, we remember how happy it was.
New Zealand wants to score one goal against us. Yes.
Yeah, but that sort of revitalized the confidence on the team. However, it's strange because the important players are not present right now. Yeah. So I think this is an important moment for the Giovannis, for the Jonathan. For Fabian, even for Pulido. We haven't talked that much about Pulido, but Pulido supposedly had a ban. By the looks of it, he actually did have a ban when he was in Greece, because the minute he comes to Mexico, voila, he's in Mexico's national team. So let's see how that works out. And I think I do see wins against New Zealand and Panama. Let's put it that way. I do see wins.
If we lose against New Zealand, that's Osonio's last game.
I do see wins, but most importantly, I do see some type of progression in the final third, because I think the Chucky, Giovanni, Peralta, Marco Fabian sort of group can click, because in the past it has. In the past there's evidence. Peralta and Giovanni know each other since the 2012 Olympics. Fabian was also there. Chucky Lozano, is in a redemption type of mode. It was horrible of a summer he had. And I look forward to Gutierrez and Orbelín Pineda taking care of their advantage because of their opportunity. Because I think for them, when you look at the list of Liga MX players, Cesar Montes, Gutierrez, Orbelín, Chucky, Pizarro, those are the next. I think those are the players that should be going to Europe pretty soon. So, this is a good moment for them to take advantage.
Now, before I go over to Tom, let's hear quick prediction scores. That's what the people want. The people want scores. Give us your quick prediction for New Zealand and for Panama.
2-0 against New Zealand, 2-0 against Panama.
All right. Tom, your thoughts?
3-0 against New Zealand and 1-0 against Panama.
1-0 against Panama. I'm saying, I'm going to go with the 4-1. I'm going to go with the 4-1 against New Zealand. I think that some of those backup options are going to want to step up and want to make a case for themselves. Are going to be more than excited to score a couple goals. But Tom, you were saying really quickly about those two games.
Yeah, I mean, on the field, really, I don't know how much you can read into it. I mean, all the Mexican players play against better opposition. I know that New Zealand have got a few good players, but it's not high quality opposition. I'm more interested in the chisme. I want to know.
No, Tom, what are you saying?
Oh my God! What Tom's saying is that he's going to apply for record.
I want to know.
Tom wants to work for record. He wants to.
Debe notas, Tom.
He wants to hear some shady stuff said by the players. He just.
I want to know. Giovanni Dos Santos, is he going to chat to the press? What's his relationship with Osorio like? Is there really a real beef there? Is there not? Jonathan Dos Santos as well. Pulido, that's what I'm more interested in. I mean, aside from the youngsters, that's the only thing. But at the end of the day, Giovanni Dos Santos scores 3 goals against New Zealand, and what does that tell us? That the last LA Galaxy game didn't tell us.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I mean, he's playing well. He's a good player. You expect him to do well against New Zealand. I mean, same with Fabian. He's playing in the Bundesliga. I mean, he's playing better quality opposition than New Zealand. I mean. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what.
I'm actually what I'm interested in is I think there's a lot of interest. And I told you guys, I actually kind of like the call. Maybe it's because there's a lot of strange backup fringe. I mean, just bringing it, the fact that he brought up Jesus Gallardo says so much about what makes this whole lineup and roster just so interesting and weird. But I'm actually there's so many exciting options in midfield and attack. I'm actually more interested in the defense because that's the part of the roster that I think is a little. I don't.
It's
a little strange. So I'm interested to see. I mean, even against a New Zealand or Panama, I know they're not. More than likely, they're just going to sit back. But I'm interested to see how some of those players are going to do.
No, because it's keep in mind, Paul Aguilar will not be available against in the November games, and I think that's I wouldn't say a huge miss because I think Paul Aguilar hasn't been so influential so far in the Osorio era, but he got that goal. He got that goal against the U.S. in the Confederations Cup, and he has that sort of importance, inside the team. I would say.
Plus, I don't know.
I would say if Aldrete does really well, and if he gets 1 star 2 starts, who knows? But if he does really well, we could easily see Layun being switched over there to the right hand side.
Dueñas played this weekend as a midfielder already as well, because Israel Jimenez was back. So do you want Dueñas as your right back? I mean, I just don't see that happening.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's all right, isn't he? Dueñas is a decent player, but he's not.
He'll get the job done. He'll get the job done against New Zealand.
And then Torres Nilo. Well, we already know about Torres Nilo. The thing about Torres Nilo that just surpasses my imagination is how well he trains. I mean, when you see that guy in the training session, he's like, man, this guy is great. He's top. Yeah. And when the game starts, he makes clumsy mistakes, and then you're like, oh my God. And
I think against the States he'll be the left back. Why? Because he's not that great going forward, but he's a good defender and he plays. He's a hard defender, and I think he's going to be given the job possibly of Pulisic. Pulisic. How do you pronounce him?
We just talked about Police United. Police United. I thought we talked about Police United.
No,
how do you pronounce it?
Pulisic.
Is it
or
Pulisic?
No, it's Pulisic, no?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Any of you guys?
But anyway, but my worry about the Aguilar thing is not necessarily games, but moving forward, and I think you can see it for quite a few positions in the Mexican national team. Like, where's the natural replacement? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I worry about that for the right back. I mean, I know there's players coming up. I quite like Carlos Guzman, but I don't know what happened to him.
You got Deditos' bench in Pachuca right now.
Yeah, Deditos on the bench that I liked. And then,
Chapo Sanchez.
I think Chapo Sanchez's potential, I mean, he's still kind of like making himself a little bit known within the Chivas roster. He's still kind of building up his own kind of like pedigree within that team. But like, I think
I don't know, mate. I don't know.
Chapo Sanchez has been one of the miracles that Almeida has done in Chivas, because I remember when everyone just hated Chapo Sanchez.
I'm just saying that, like,
Chapo Sanchez was out.
Wouldn't we have like instead wanted to see someone like Chapo Sanchez or Dedos Lopez, regardless of their form, like see those guys instead of a Dueñas?
Exactly.
In these games. Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I think Chapo Sanchez is just going through this amazing like form of his life type of thing. I don't think he's national team quality. I know Chivas fans won't be happy at that.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a good player, but I think at international level, you chuck him in there against the States in Columbus, and I don't know. I just don't trust him there.
Right now, for example, the case with Carlos Salcedo.
Mm-hmm.
I think Carlos Salcedo has been really impressive, to get right into the 11 with Fiorentina and Europa League and also Serie A. Do you see a potential start for Salcedo in Columbus, considering the type of mentality he has? Because the guy goes there and right away steps up. I mean, it's not like he's scared about the...
I think it also depends a lot on how Reyes is doing too, whether he's getting more minutes, whether he's doing all right. I mean, it seems like Reyes did all right in his recent first start for Espanyol, but I feel like that depends a lot on him as well.
I'd throw Salcedo straight in there, me. I just think he's
ready.
Like you said, he's ready. He's ready to that step now. I mean, he's done his next step. He's gone to Fiorentina. He's starting games. Like, throw him in there alongside Moreno. I mean, Reyes. It's like at the end of the day, there's still such a big question mark about Reyes when it comes to the national team. And I don't know. I mean, if you play Reyes maybe in front of the defense.
Yeah. I was mostly playing devil's advocate. Honestly, I think that like if he could do well against AC Milan, I think he could do all right against the U.S. men's national team.
And he has that experience. I of course I don't think it plays a big role, but the fact that he played several a season or two in MLS does influence the way he perceives the game. I mean, I think he's a different type of. He's physical, like Tom said. I think Tom described him perfectly. He's not scared about the tackle. Of course, sometimes it can be a red card, and that can, screw the team up. But you want that. You want that type of player in the team, and Salcedo is doing well so far.
He's competitive, and I think he probably trains really well. And I don't think you can maybe say that about Diego Reyes sometimes. I mean, I just think that's the question mark over Reyes. I mean, it's just a bit flimsy. You know what I mean?
No, especially with I mean, look at Reyes has been in Europe for what now? Is it 3 years now? I think it's since 2013. What Reyes has done, and what Salcedo seems to have already accomplished within a matter of it's been maybe a month, and you could feel like there's just so much more confidence, a little bit like you'd feel like a little bit much better at least give an opportunity to Salcedo to do it. Yeah.
I think I remember when Porto played against Bayern Munich and Reyes was played as a right back. And
my God, yeah. Oh,
that's unfortunate. I think for someone like Reyes to play in such a crucial game as a right back when he's not a right back.
I think that was like it must have been his third start this season too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So I mean, he's played a lot with that. It's unfortunate that he's never been able to sort of accommodate himself as a starter in Porto, when you would think he would have. These loans to Real Sociedad in Espanyol suggest a sort of inconsistency, and it affects the player's development.
And don't forget, national team level as well. I mean, he's not nailed down a place. Like when he went over there to Europe, that's what we thought. He's the next centre back, no doubt about it. He's the next Rafa Marquez. He plays well with the ball, but he's not developed at the level that I think many people thought he would.
It still kind of feels like he's still like a 19, 20, 21-year-old, doesn't he? But in fact, I think he must be 20. I think he's 24 right now. It's actually really interesting to note. I think another defensive option who actually he's a little bit younger than I thought he was, but Araujo, he's actually I think he's only just 1 year older than Reyes, and that kind of puts into a little bit perspective of where Reyes is at.
Araujo, could be noted as one of the positives from the Copa Centenario because, he played as a starter and he did respond adequately, but, he's coming off an injury, and I think that sort of slows down his momentum heading into these matches that are crucial for Juan Carlos Osorio if he wants to keep his job.
All right. So, guys, it's been a little over an hour. We've talked about the national team. We've talked about Liga MX. We've talked about. It seems like we did a lot of good coverage today. Any final thoughts before we wrap this show up? Anything else about? Anything? It doesn't even have to be about soccer. Actually, I probably shouldn't say that because then I'll lead this conversation way too far about other things. But guys, anything? Naive.
Well, I think I'm intrigued as to what's going to happen in the midfield for El Tri. This is just random thought right now, but look, right now we're talking about inconsistencies, and Hector Herrera hasn't been consistent, with the national team. You expect more from someone like Hector Herrera, and if Orbelín Pineda nails it down in these matches and, see sometimes the security, don't be surprised if Orbelín starts in Columbus, instead of Hector Herrera. Let me just put it there.
Tom, any final thoughts?
Yeah.
Other than you just want to see cheese, you want to see just
cheese
nothing
me.
but cheese man.
I want to see Giovanni Dos Santos in a press conference alongside Osorio. That's what I want to see over this international break.
That could happen. Maybe.
No, my final thoughts. Let's see. I am also interested in that midfield. I'm intrigued by options like Eric Gutierrez and Orbelín. I agree with Naive. I'm hoping we could potentially see something. I mean, it seems like a 4-3-3 is expected, but you don't know what to expect from Osorio. But to see something like Jonah in defensive midfield position with Gutierrez and Orbelín pushing up his two attacking midfield positions, but we'll see. Thank you guys. Thank you to everyone. Apologies once again to all of you. We were struggling a little bit. I think it was partially my fault. We're gonna put most of the blame on YouTube. I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. I don't know. We got the show started. We were about 20 minutes late. And once again, apologies. Thank you all for the questions. Apologies to those of the other questions that we couldn't reach. We were just trying to set up the show, and obviously we were struggling a little bit with that. Thank you to Tom. Thank you to Naive. Thank you everyone on the chat. And let's see what happens in these next two matches for Mexico. It'll be interesting, and hopefully there'll be some chisme for Tom. And then at least this weekend. All right. Have a good night, guys. I'll see you around.
Buenas noches. Take care. Good week.